Absolutely.
And it would have been great if it got to Lomita Boulevard. Lomita Boulevard was not the stop Pacific Coast Highway was, because that would have joined Madison at Lomita Boulevard, and you go south, you'd hit Pacific Coast Highway, because that street was already in on it.
Yeah, that would have changed the traffic dynamics a lot in this town.
But
I can understand from the residential perspective.
We lost that battle.
Right.
On it.
I know you had the opportunity to meet President Richard Nixon, and that was for the signing of an act that you played a role in, and I wanted to talk about that.
That was called revenue sharing. When Nixon was in office, before all this scandal and whatever happened prior, the federal government, the Congress created what they call revenue sharing, with sharing monies with the local communities for development. And Torrance was a big pusher in that, letters, etc. And it was a very supportive role. Nixon wanted it. And so they finally passed it, the revenue sharing. And he chose 15 cities in the United States to come back at the signing of it, which was held at in Philadelphia. As a matter of fact, the bell was
Liberty Bell.
Liberty Bell was there, and so I flew. I was honored by that. I flew back to Philadelphia that morning for the next day, and the 15 mayors from the different cities in the United States were there, and he signed it. A lot of, PR work going in there, and then afterwards they invited us up to the second floor and with his cabinet, and we met all his cabinet and that. But we came back and we had that revenue sharing available to us. In fact, we were going to use some of that for development of the park, but we didn't need to. We got several grants. Future councils got federal grants to build what you see on Wilson Park particularly. Did you share any words with Mr. Nixon when you met him? Each mayor came up, and the Liberty Bell was sitting there, and he was standing there. And he shook hands with each mayor. And he was introduced, Mayor Miller of Torrance. Oh, I know Torrance real well. How's your former mayor doing? Didn't ask what I was doing. And he knew Eisen very well, I think. And there was almost a freeway that went through the city. I guess there's some pluses and minuses. You have to drive a little further to get to the freeway, but it definitely would have, again, changed the dynamic of Torrance if that would have been running through. Well, tell us about that battle. And the first suggestion of a freeway running north and south was along the ocean front. And, of course, that was killed immediately by the powers, let's say that. And so it was shoved over so it would extend from where TRW is, more or less, 405, come in off 405 and go all the way down into Torrance, and all the way through Torrance to Lomita Boulevard, go south, go east of Lomita out to San Pedro. And that cut the heart of Anza. I couldn't think of the word Anza. Anza, okay. Anza Street would really, and of course, the people didn't want that at all. It probably would have been a good thing for moving traffic, but it wasn't a good thing for the city. Right. But Vincent Thomas was the assemblyman for at that time, and he was the assemblyman for Lomita, and it ran through Lomita, and he didn't want it. So he killed the financing in the assembly, and it was never built. And looking back on it, it's probably the best thing that ever happened on it. But otherwise, there would have been a freeway there, but it would have cut our city up quite a bit. One thing I haven't mentioned that I do want to mention first is that back in the 70s, we were growing so fast. We were growing so fast that we designed an ordinance that lowered the number of units per acre from, I think it was 49 to 27 acres per acre, which cut off the growth for a while. You know, then condominiums become popular, and developers come in with the condominium concept, but it's still got almost cut in half the number of units you could have on it. Other than that, I can only say that the people that are doing this, I admire the people that are doing this Centennial thing. Unfortunately, I would like to have been part of it, but I couldn't count on certain health problems I've had. But I'm sure they're doing a good job with it, and I'm anxious to see it having
how it all
visited
unfolds.
and been part of it all those years.
All right. Well, thank you, former Mayor Ken Miller, so much for joining us today. It's been a great pleasure to hear your perspective on Torrance as it's evolved, and on behalf of the city, I want to thank you for all of your contributions.
Thank you, Colleen. It's a pleasure.
And thanks for tuning into this special edition of our Centennial programming. Please continue to tune in throughout the year as we get up close and personal with the people, places, and things that continue to shape the direction of our city.